Okay, so we're back at the 1724 house. We're looking at framing and millwork, the woodwork that went into this house. The framing, as we've explained, we've got this plank framing on the wall, not studs every 24 inches or every 18 or 16 inches. We have the outside posts, right? The bays that have been laid out, and then these planks that have been laid over top of that from top to bottom, and then these windows are cut in. Okay guys, so we're standing in the 1725 portion of the house. Back there's the 1836 and there's the new Victorian section, right? We're talking about framing. So this house was really put together. You see a number of different framing types here, right? Very standard framing that we might see in a house today. What's different is the way this house was framed. This house was framed with planking, okay? So basically, if we look in the corner here, you see the timber framing, you see the bracing that's going on, you see the tree nails that are holding this, that are pegging this together. It's all mortise and tenon, it's like a giant piece of furniture. One of the challenges for the team is trying to marry good build science with historic detailing and historic construction. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to build a very efficient house and yet not lose its historic integrity. And so that requires a little more careful planning, a little more careful detailing of how the insulation goes on. In this case, it's going on from the outside, and how the eaves look and how the windows fit in the wall. But all of those things are small details that if you don't think through, mock up, put together, start laying out, you could really have some, not only holes energy efficiency wise, but some ugly detailing because things get too fat or too big or awkward as you're putting them together. So this is maybe one of the more careful parts of this build, getting these details so that they not only function well, but also look great. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take that planking, right? Keep this original. They've built a stud wall inside of here that we can put insulation into as well. And we've got that wood fiber on the outside that is with the paraffin wax and everything else that is a permeable material, vapor open, it can dry out on the outside. And then we've got these windows that are going to sit on this face. The jambs inside have been splayed, okay? The splaying of the jambs was something they would do to allow more light to come into a space. The windows are actually going to sit on the face of the building, which is really pretty cool. If you think about the Pennsylvania farmhouse, we did that same kind of framing on the siding of the walls. You'll see these windows that stick out from the siding and come in, that same kind of timber framing. That's that look we are going for. Architecture, okay, reflects our technology, our abilities, and here's an example, right, of our architecture telling the story that we can look at this house and we know a lot about how we used to live because of the way that house was put together. I'm standing over a section where the floor's been cut out, okay? In 1836, they actually had a fireplace in here. So 1725, when it was redone in the 1830s, the Greek Revival era, they actually had a chimney coming up through here. But look at what's going on here. I've got this old beam and then it's connected to this new beam. Now, why do this? Okay, what's going on? And it looks like this joint in here, you know, how are these connected? Well, actually, this is mortise and tenon. It's one of the things that we do at North Bennett Street. One of the things the students are doing now is they're actually repairing and saving these old beams. You're gonna see a girt down there that runs across where there's this great joinery piece where they've saved this beam and put it together. Because when a beam is rotten, you're not just throwing it away, okay? It can be repaired, it can be put back together. I know that this tongue actually goes all the way into here, okay? So it extends quite a bit away, and there's also steel in this thing to support this thing. Realize that this framing in here is where the lath and plaster are gonna go, okay? So in between these beams, you will see these beams sticking down about 3 or 4 inches, and so we will still see this. Now, I love that we're seeing this joinery and this repair. I love that you're seeing it down there because we are saving history, keeping that historic fabric. For that ranch project that we did where we took that old barn as a New York barn that we brought down to Texas. Why did we do that? Well, because building today, okay, in Brent Hull's opinion, Brent Hull's bias, is that it can be stale and ugly, okay? Yeah. In the basement, you have basically logs, half logs that are supporting the floor system, okay? Upstairs, you have actually a timber and they've gone to take the time to bead the edges, okay, and chamfer edges. Why? Why did they do that? Well, because in a basement, you don't really care about finishing out and spending more time. I can just take a log, cut it, okay, there's my supporting beam, that's in the basement, I don't need to worry about it. Up here, where I've got paneling, I might have people come up here, I need to show them a more refinement. And so when we're building timber frame ceilings, when we are doing faux work in there, we're looking at those details like the chamfering, like the beading, like the boxing out, and the different things that they were doing at that time as authenticators, okay? Things that give the clue that you're in a special space. But if I'm doing anything European or early colonial revival, we're using antique beams. We're using real beams. The problem with box beams is oftentimes you can't put that detailing in there because you got a 45 where those things are coming together. And if I chamfer that edge, I've all of a sudden either opened that joint up or I'm running into nails and all kinds of different problems. And so we think, okay, Brent thinks that if you put in real timbers just like they did, okay, it's a more authentic look. One thing you'll hear as we talk to other instructors and stuff is that framing over there is very new, okay, and in the best sense. The best framing materials, the best framing techniques, the best build science. So there is a way to marry all of these things together so that they tell a cohesive story, right? The 1723, 1836 kind of Victorian addition that includes the garage that allows this house to live in so many different ways. But there is a collection of great building techniques here from historic to brand new that make this house pretty kick-ass. So it's fun for me to come up to New England, not only to see these great details and see these great elements, but also see my son, who's at North Bennett Street, second year. And he's, as he said in the podcast, he's not wild about timber framing, mainly because there's not a lot of timber framing here in Texas. And so he's like, we're not gonna have to do a bunch of that. I'm trying to gain as much information as I can while I'm up here in this next 9 months, 8 months that I've got before I graduate. But it's fun for me to come up here and see him. And this timber frame project they're doing is really pretty cool. All right, so you can really start seeing this house come together. You've got a 1723 window there, a 12/12. So we walking it up to the building and there's been a ton of cool stuff that's been added. The big thing for me was seeing that window in and seeing that multi-light window there it was so beautiful. Now, why was it beautiful? Well, and this is what I'm always talking about, is that light size, that glass size is really important. And so it's a very small light. I think it's a 6x8 or 6x9. And you don't sit there and look and go, oh my gosh, that glass is so small, but you do look at that window and you are gauging that overall size, and you know there's a lot of lights in that window. As windows are the soul of the house, the eyes of the house that help you read it, okay? It wasn't a tall, thin Victorian with a 2/2, right? It wasn't a big arts and crafts with a 3/1, 3x5. The scale of that window and the size of those panes is defining, and it is really important when you're wanting to get these details right so that it looks authentic. And so that's a great example. Move over, look over 10 feet and you see that Greek Revival entry. But look at the Greek Revival entry here. This is 1836, and look at these Greek Revival elements. Look at the way the capital is done with that sharp molding that goes back. Same kind of sharp molding that's up under that bed mold right in the eave. Look at those plain flat surfaces that kind of evoke that Greek Revival stone heavy look here. What a fantastic opening. What a character defining piece. A lot of rich texture, a lot of rich things coming together, and the authenticity of it. I mean, if you would just look at the house over there that's colonial revival and those windows versus that. I mean, that is just stark. This is a frame that's on the outside. It's a timbered frame. It's sitting proud of the house. Remember, this is plank framed. Those thin buttons, those thin bars, the small pieces of glass, it's just magical. Talk about getting the details right and that authenticity. Did you see the door? Did you see how big and wide those stiles and rails were? I mean, they had stiles and rails that were like 8 inches wide, right? Just these huge chunky things. And part of that Greek Revival story is a stone-like complex. Notice the trim too, the moldings at the top, the capitals, and just the shape of those things in that Greek Revival shape, that kind of hard angle that comes down. all of those things were just so defining and so wonderful. You know, my eye is always kind of sleuthing as we go through a house like that. When was that built? When was that built? Kind of what's going on. We still have 3 panel doors, clearly Greek Revival, big wide stiles and rails, Greek Revival moldings. A 4 panel, which looked a little bit more Georgian, but had Greek Revival details in it. Really the only Georgian millwork now is that fireplace wall. We haven't seen the front door. You've got the windows, which are clearly Georgian on that part. The staircase, the new staircase that's going to go in is going to be Georgian, right? And putting all this together and seeing how it's, as they're now putting on the siding and the windows and these other elements, it's exciting to see this house come alive. This framed wall is a paneled wall. So this is a Georgian wall. And what's interesting is it was never painted, which is odd. I was talking to Michael and the team about it. It's really odd that you would have this here. There's some chalk work behind here, or someone who wrote upside down their name in there. Not sure exactly what it said. Good history. But I've got a very, clear Georgian wall here, a mantle shelf that was added in at some point. And then what you're seeing here is the work that the North Bennett Street guys did, coming in here and doing repairs. This is called a Dutchman, okay, to make a repair. So if there's a big notch out of this thing, like on that panel right here, you could put a Dutchman in there, which would mean that you would carefully carve out these sections and carefully feather it across, put the paneling back in here. It's called a Dutchman. So you're seeing Dutchman, but you're also seeing this new millwork going in here where the old pieces were lost. You also see S3, R5, P3. This is where they documented it. This is where, when they were taking it apart, they put paper on each of the different things, and they tell which job it's coming from. This is a rail, this is a panel, this is a style, right? And so all these things can be put back together. This was a door, okay, here, and there was another door over here, fireplace around on this side. Look what's going on right here. Because they carefully documented that, there's your Belection molding, okay, that went around this fireplace. Belection molding is one that kind of protrudes out into the room, and we can see the slight lines of that Belection molding. And look at this. There's moldings here and there, which show us what the door casing might have looked like. So we're actually, because they carefully put this thing back together exactly the way it was, we actually know or have an idea of what the moldings might have looked like in this house and how they're put together. Now these panels have been built new, okay? Why were these panels built new? Well, you can see the lime scarring here where the lime went through, and there was ribbon plaster on this. We'll talk about that. But look what happened to this panel, okay? Someone basically took this panel and just chopped, okay? So this panel was in the wall, and someone came along and went chop, 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 if you can believe it, and was knocking the face off of this thing so that they could put their lath across the thing and plaster over it. Maybe somehow it had gotten kicked out. Maybe this side of it had been kicked out a little bit, and they didn't want to spend the time trying to push it back in. It's kind of crazy. Amazing history. So to see the quality of construction going on here, to see the Dutchmans, the repairs they're making, the timber work, I mean, this is a really high level restoration that's exciting to follow because they're doing beautiful work. It's taken a while, but it's a classroom, and so it's going to be pretty special when it's finished. If you're the buyer out there and if you're interested in looking at these, my eye looking at this is just like, yes, thumbs up. They are really doing a careful job, a great restoration, high quality work, the architectural details. It's a special house.